like we want to take pictures. Is it okay?
That's perfectly fine. You can take pictures if you want. That's okay. Jai Jinendra, everyone. Jai Jinendra. This is the idol that you saw upstairs of Lord Mahavira. First you see the symbol as well.
And the SJRS
50 years logo. This is the 50 years of establishment of SJRS as we discussed. We are celebrating this event in this world. Now, as I said, Jai Jinendra. Jai Jinendra is the Jain greeting. It is the Jain way to say hello. Right? Now, what does exactly it mean? It's made of three words. This is a Sanskrit word. It's not proper. This is Sanskrit. Jai, Jin, and Indra. There are three words combined together. What does Jina means? Jina means person who has conquered all the inner passions, achieved enlightenment. In other words, he is like God was, like a Tirthankar was. He is the person who has got victory over all the inner passions, anger, greed, ego, pride, you see everything. He has conquered all of them. Also, he has conquered the five senses. What five senses we have in the body, right? Smell, food, taste, hear, everything. So what do you mean by conquered? He is not bothered. And when you go into history of Jain Tirthankars, you will see that they have fasted for years altogether. And a Jain fast is a very, very difficult fast. Even today we know of Jain monks and many even normal Jain Shravaks and normal Jain people who would fast for 30, 40 days in a row without eating even a single grain of food, right? So they are trying to conquer on their own senses, right? So we are going down to such great souls and the great humans who have conquered on all these indriyas or the senses and the internal passions, and they are like God to us. So Jai Jinendra is going down to them. This is a greeting that we use in Jainism. Like
so every Jain that you meet, you can say Jai Jinendra. That's how we greet each other.
Like when we meet each other, we say hello, hi, how are you, hello, right? Hello is a common greeting. For Jains, it is Jai Jinendra. When we meet each other, Jai Jinendra, Jai Jinendra, right? So today we'll discuss some of these key things. Obviously, we have started the discussion already upstairs and in the room. So what is Jainism? What are the main principles? And about Jainism in Singapore, we all have some history already, but we'll discuss more as we go through. Now, you asked a very beautiful question, right, in the beginning as well. Now, Jainism, as I said, is derived from the Sanskrit word Jina, right? So, who is a Jina? Jina is the one who is the conqueror of inner passions. As we discussed, so we have, if somebody is able to get victory over all your ego, pride, attachment, you have no worry about what is happening around the surroundings. You are able to win over all the five senses as well, and also attain the supreme knowledge, which is the Keval Gyan in Jainism. Supreme knowledge is that knowledge through which you can see past, present, future of every infinite living beings in this universe. As per Jainism, there are infinite beings, and there is a defined origin where all of us probably came from. We'll probably not go there, but self-realization is he's got the supreme knowledge and he has realized his true self. What is our true self? You guys know? But what is our true self? This clearly isn't our true self, right? I mean, this will be burned one day or buried one day. So he is the one who has conquered all of these, and that is what Jainism is all about, right? Jina is also known as Tirthankar. Now, there's a small difference between Jina and Tirthankar, right? The Tirthankar is what we worship, as I told you upstairs that there are 24 Tirthankars or 24 lords that we really worship. A Tirthankar is a person who has not only conquered all these, got victory over all his inner pleasures and all the senses, also has achieved enlightenment. More importantly, he lays a path. He forms a tirth. He forms a path, shows the path to the common man how to come out of this bridge while they are stuck in samsara. Samsara is the cycle of life and death. The cycle of life and death. So Tirthankar is that person who shows us the path to come out of that cycle. So he himself has become enlightened, and then he shows the path to others to come out of that cycle of life and death where people are stuck for infinite years. So he is the one who is Tirthankar and our God. So this is a very interesting slide. It's come a bit early in the discussion, but this is the Kal Chakra, as you can say, Jainism concept of time, cosmic wheel of time, or the Kal Chakra. What exactly is Kal Chakra? Just to tell you, this is the first, second, third, fourth. We are this point. This is exactly where we are in terms of time cycle today. To give you an understanding of this time cycle, Jainism says that life has existed for infinity, but there is a whole circle of time where it starts and then it ends and then restarts again. It starts from the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, goes back from 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay? In the first half, which is the first part of this time cycle, there is only susam, which means only happiness. Only happiness exists. People are extremely happy. They live in a very different human body form as versus what we see, and there are a lot of other special peculiarity about every part of the time cycle. But you can assume that the creation starts here and possibly ends here and then restarts again. We are in the fifth ara today. Today we are in the fifth ara. All the Jain Tirthankars, all 24 of them that came in the fourth ara. Fourth ara is that special time on our planet. By the way, this is for our planet, just to tell you that. This is for our planet. As per Jainism, there are other planets where time cycles don't exist. Times actually are constant. But for our planet, fourth ara, which is for second or fourth, is when all the 24 Tirthankars came. This is the time on our planet when people can achieve moksha or achieve enlightenment. They can attain the supreme knowledge, which is the Keval Gyan as per Jainism, and also get out of this cycle of life and death. Jainism values the human life the most. As per Jainism, this is the most precious life, and this is the only way you can get rid of your karmas and achieve moksha at some stage. Also the time, not just the human body, also we are talking about the time here. So this is the fourth ara, which is the most important one. So first ara was susam, second ara was susam, means happiness. Third ara was susam, means happiness, but some sadness, some quarreling had started between brothers, for example, right? Fourth ara is the ara of all 24 Tirthankars. Dusam. First is Dusam and second is Susam. So slight bit of more pain and suffering. Dusam means pain and suffering. Susam means happiness. Some more of pain had started to happen. Some quarrel and fight between brothers. Some deceit, some ego, some pride. Some of these deformities, we may call, have started emerging in this time. And now we are in the fifth era, which is Dusam, which is the current era we are living, all of us are living in. It's started 3.5 years after Mahavira's Nirvana. So it's only, let's say, 2,500 years approximately. That from the starting of this fifth era, 2.5 years have passed. I've written a lot of blogs on this time cycle, and a lot of blogs otherwise. The total tenure is 21,000 years of these particular eras. So fifth era is 21,000 years. Now these eras are one Koda Kodi Saga, means this we are talking about 1 into 10 million into 10 million number of years. So these are very, very big times in terms of number of years. They are huge. These are pretty small, as also you can see in terms of the cycle. Right? So we believe that the cycle starts from here. There will be at some stage where nobody will be existing, maybe 1 or 2 monks will remain as per Jainism, then again the cycle will start, again the Tirthankars will come in the next hour, which is, we'll start from 654 in the next hour, next time, in the next cycle. And the cycle will go on forever, for eternity, it doesn't end. Now this is a bit of a history, we were discussing which different religion started and originated, and how their cultures evolved. So I'm sure, Christianity, all everyone knows, around the Christ time, right? Islam started, let's say 570 AD, 600 years after Christ. Jainism, this is this is the time when Lord Mahavira was there. 599 BC is when he was born. 527 BC is when he attained Nirvana. But as I discussed, Lord Mahavira is our 24th Tirthankar. So which means there must have been 23 predecessors, many Tirthankars who came before Lord Mahavira. So 23rd Tirthankar, for example, is Lord Parashurama, 23rd Tirthankar. And he was there in 900 BC, 900 years before Christ. And there were 22 Tirthankars before Lord Parshurnath came. And the time gap between these keeps on increasing in an exponential manner. So it is a very, very prehistoric religion. These Lord Parshurnath, Mahavira and Lord Jaininath, who is our 22nd Tirthankar, we find a lot of historical relevance, and even in history we find a lot of evidence about their existence, their teachings, their lot of these things. And before these, 22 Tirthankars were there before these. So we are really talking about long before Abraham and Christ and all. Even Gautam Buddha was 563, which was in the same time as Lord Mahavira was there in India. In fact, very surprisingly, I'm not sure if you know, they were there at the same place as well, in the same part of India, same region of India. When Lord Mahavira was there in Bihar, he was also there in Bihar, part of India. But then the history of Jainism traces long before all these. So Lord Mahavira, who is our 24th and the final Tirthankar, when I say final, which means now in this time cycle, we will not have any more Tirthankars on this planet. We will also not be able to achieve moksha from this planet in this time cycle. We all can work towards it. We all can try to get rid of our karmas, but none of us can get enlightenment in this time cycle, as per Jainism. But we can work towards it. So Lord Mahavira was born, as we discussed, in 599, 600 years before Christ. He left at home at the age of 30, which means he was born as a prince. He was a born prince, right? His father was a king. Till the age of 30, he remained like all of us did, in the family, father and mother living in a palace. But at age of 30, he said, okay, I'll become a monk now. Right? So this is the time when he left home and actually became a monk. Now there's a bit of a difference here, enlightenment and attaining nirvana. They are two different things. Right? For 12 years, Lord Mahavira did very hard penance. He traveled without clothes, without anything, traveling across the country, doing a lot of tapasya, not taking food many times, right? And at the age of 42, he achieved what we call as an enlightenment or the Keval Gyan, or the supreme knowledge. So, the supreme knowledge is actually not just knowing your own soul, but also to be able to comprehend everything that is happening in the universe, and the universe is very big. Jainism talks about many other planets having lives and life forms. Jainism talks about 84 lakh types of species of life forms. And we talk about that every soul, like you have a soul, I have a soul. Our soul can actually go into any other life form as well. It's no guarantee that we'll always remain as humans. Once and we'll talk to that, come towards that, they can become, you have a question? I'm not sure. Okay. So the soul can travel through different life forms. We'll come to that as well in the presentation. But at the age of 42, when he achieved enlightenment, he got the supreme knowledge of the Keval Gyan, where he could see past, present, future of everything. And it's not just humans or living beings. There are, Jainism is a pretty ancient religion, as we discussed, right? Long before the modern scientists came, Jainism talks about Parmanu or the atoms. So Jainism gives so much details about single cell organisms, which was very, very recent to modern science, only 200 years, 500 years ago. Even penicillin was discovered very recently, right? The antibiotic. But Jainism talks about all these things, and all these things were written many thousand years ago, not hundreds of years ago. So he achieved enlightenment or supreme knowledge at age 42 and attained nirvana. Nirvana is what we call as leaving the human body and the soul traveling to Shiv the Sila. All forever he got out of the cycle of life and death at the age 70. He will never come back to take any birth in any form of life. Now he got out of that cycle. We are still stuck in that cycle. That's at age 72. That's what. And if you remember, if we discussed that place Pavapuri when we were discussing of the various places, that's the place where he attained Nirvana. So Lord Mahavira was able to conquer all the inner passions, anger, ego, deceit, greed. I don't know in interest of time, but let me share you a very small incident from Mahavira's life, very small incident, not too long. So one day when Mahavira was under meditation, right, a cow shepherd, basically a cow herder came and said, "Hey monk, can you take care of my cows? I'm just going to do some stuff." Right? But Lord Mahavira was in deep meditation. And anyways, he had attained the knowledge. He didn't really care about anything that is happening in the world. Now, when the shepherd went away, the cow herder went away, and when he came back, he saw that the cows were not there. So he told Mahavira, "Hey monk, where are the cows?" But Mahavira, being Mahavira, remained in deep meditation. The shepherd, the cow herder, thought that he had already heard that I'm leaving my cows with you, and then when I come back, I don't find them. What were you doing and all that? He got very angry. The cow herder got very angry. Mahavira remained in meditation. He didn't even speak because he had attained a certain level of spirituality. Right? So he got so angry that he took some thorns and nails and he hit the nails in his ears, pierced into his ears. Mahavira didn't flinch. He didn't flinch at all. He didn't do anything. He remained in meditation. The herder became even more furious. He did it in both the ears and he was very angry. Then he went away. When somebody came and when the nails were taken out, a small drop of tear came out of Mahavira's eye. And people were surprised that, Lord Mahavira, how can that happen? So somebody asked him, "What happened, Lord Mahavira? How did this come?" He said, "Look, it doesn't matter to me because I can take whatever pain comes to me. It is part of my karmic cycle. I am getting rid of karmas." But the tear came out for that shepherd because the karmas that he has bound by this act, how will he bear the pain of those karmas? The tear was for the karmas that the shepherd had borne. So Mahavira had already got rid of all anger. He had no anger. He remained in calmness throughout. And many such episodes come from his life history that we read. So he had gone victory of all his five senses and all the inner passions. He had complete victory on all of this. Now, I want to spend a little bit time here. So, as we know, Tirthankar, I already explained you, and we already explained the concept of God in Jainism. There is no creator God, right? There is nobody who created the universe, for example. Jainism believes this has been existing forever. Every single human, all of us, have the capability to become lords. So what's really stopping us? Right? What really is stopping us? This is a body. One day, for sure, we know death is inevitable. All of us will die. What will die? When we speak of death, what will die? This body. This body will be burned. But there will be something which will not die, and that is our soul. Why can't we see our soul right now? It's like a dusted mirror. You see, there's a mirror, massively dusted mirror. You just can't see anything through it, right? If you remove the dirt, can you see? It looks so clean, clear, everything visible like a magic, right? See, this is exactly our situation in life, friends. Our soul is covered by karmic particles. Our soul is covered by karmic particles. It is so deeply engulfed because of all the karmic particles that we have accumulated over multiple lives. Right? Not this life, before this. Millions of years our soul has been traveling. Our soul is pretty old, friends. We've been traveling for millions of years in different life forms. We've accumulated infinite karmas and they are all binding our soul. So we can't see our true self. Can you see our true self? I mean, we try to do meditation, but really we can't, isn't it? That's a fact. We all try to do a lot of things, but we really can't. Because our soul is still engulfed with a lot of karmic atoms. Once those karmic atoms are cleaned out or the bonds are broken, that is when you are able to connect with your soul, see the true self, and that is also when you attain the Keval, which is what Mahavira. In Keval, all our souls are capable of infinite power, infinite bliss. This is the power of each and every one of us. All of us have the potential to become God. And our souls have that infinite power. We have to break the shackles. We have to break the bonds, the karmic bond that we have accumulated. There are multiple ways that the Jainism talks about how we can achieve those things. But Lord Mahavira achieved infinite knowledge, infinite bliss, infinite energy, which is also stored in all of us. It's just that we are bound by the karmic atom. But he could share all that. He became a Tirthankar, achieved the infinite knowledge, which is Keval Gyan. He became a Tirthankar. We bow to him in respect. And the only prayers that we do, honestly, that we, as Jain we are supposed to do, is can we become like you, God? Please make us like you. We also want to achieve moksha.
So when you say become God, I reference your slide previously. So they must have reached Nirvana.
Nirvana is the stage, yes, correct?
Yeah, they reached Nirvana.
Yeah, correct. So Nirvana is a stage. So there is a little bit of difference here. The moment you shed all your karmas, okay, you become enlightened or you achieve the supreme knowledge, which is Keval Gyan. That state is called as Arihant stage. That stage is called as Arihant stage. They are also like gods to us. It's just that they have not left. The soul hasn't left the body. Yes, the soul still resides in the body. They are in the Aryan form. They are as good as Lord to us. So, as per Jainism, the closest living Tirthankar right now is Sri Simandar Swami. He is living in a different planet. He has attained enlightenment already. In a different planet right now as we speak. There are 20 living Tirthankars in the whole universe as per Jainism.
So can I
not go to
say
that, but yeah, sure.
Can I say once you reach Nirvana, you pass on?
You never come back. Once you attain Nirvana, the soul goes and resides in a different part of universe that is called as Siddhishila. I'll come to the map of universe as well. I'll tell you where exactly it happens. Jainism also gives you each and every single detail of the shape of universe, the size of universe, where planets are, and everything. There's so much detail that it's just hard for me to explain in a very short span. But once Nirvana is attained, the soul goes and stays in Siddhishila and never comes back. They are out of the cycle of life and death where we are stuck. When I talk about life and death, we can also become animal. Not humans alone, plants. All of them have life. We also talk about heavenly beings and hellish beings. Right? So we come to that. But yeah, they are all part of this cycle. They are all part of that cycle. But Mahavira could attain Nirvana, which means his soul is now residing in Siddhishila, he will not come back.
So in short means if you are in Nirvana, you're no longer in samsara.
Absolutely. You're right. So this is the cycle, right? Your karmas, your previous karmas determine the fate that you are seeing. See, look, guys, there is nothing called as fate. What exactly is fate? You see, palmists will read these lines. What exactly is fate? Fate is nothing but your own past karmas fructifying in this life. There's nothing else. So your past karmas determines what happens to you in this life. Some karmas may not necessarily fructify in this life, but maybe in the next life. But effectively, whatever we reap today is because of whatever we have done in the past. And whatever we are doing today, the thoughts that we are creating today, the actions that we are doing today, we are binding new karmas, and they will determine our future. So this is a cycle of life and death. All of us are part of this cycle, depending on what kind of karmas we are doing, what kind of thoughts we are creating, what kind of actions we are doing. And we will reap them in the next birth, maybe next to next birth. But we will continuously be part of this cycle until the time we eliminate the karmic bondage. Until the time we break the shackles of karmic bonds. We will continue to be part of this cycle of life and death, which is what we have been doing for millions of years. When we talk about Mahavira's life, just to be slightly off topic, Mahavira's soul had gone through hell, had become a crow, had been through many life forms. We know the entire history of what last 20-30 births that Mahavira sold, and all of us would have done that. And we continue to do that until the time we stop forming new karmic bonds. How do we do that? You know how to stop karmic bonds? Let me stop here and ask a question. What do you think? How can we do that? In a very simplistic manner, given that we are not monks and nuns, but given the constraint that we are in, how do you think in normal day-to-day life? Which is where the concept of Jainism comes. It's open to everyone. It is not a conversion religion. It is anybody can be a Jain, but how? Do you know?
The one free your mind of desires.
That's such a great thing. Correct. Jainism is a religion of thought. So we talk about non-violence. That's one of our core principles, and we come to that. Non-violence is not just the actions. Me beating anybody, that is obviously violence. That you don't have to do it. But more importantly, violence by thoughts. Not even thinking bad of anybody. Not even in our thought you should come to that figure that, okay, oh, he did that to me, let that happen to him. That's not acceptable. The moment you do that, you are binding many new karmas. The day you break that shackle, the day you stop creating bad thoughts, that is the day you stop accumulating new karmas. That's the first step at least we can take. Even if we can't become monks and nuns and not attain supreme knowledge and not attain nirvana in this life, that's the basic thing you can do as per Jainism thought. So it's not about conversion. You can be Jain as long as you follow some of the core principles, and you will also come to that. So, but once you are out of this cycle, this is when you attain enlightenment, but still in body form, human form, and then you attain nirvana and you don't come back. Now, this is a very interesting one. What do you see this? You see a figure here? Right? Now, this, as per Jainism, is the shape of our universe.
Did you notice the symbol when you enter the place?
Yeah.
Right at the front of our building on the top. So the symbol is held out there on the top.
Yeah, this is Jain symbol. This is a Jain symbol. What does it signify? You will find it in most Jain places, like for example this building as I said. You will find it in many places in India, and many organizations will have this. This is a Jain symbol. What does it depict? This thing that used to be the outer body, this is the shape of the universe. By the way, in Jainism, they have defined what is the length. So this is 7 rajyo wide, and then there's too many details. That goes beyond the discussion that we had in this room. This part, the middle part, is called as the Madhya Lok. This is where planet Earth is. This is where all the other planets are, where humans can live. The lower region below this, like all this part, is where the hell is, as per Jainism. This is where the heavenly abodes are. The upper part is where the heavenly abodes are. Now, heaven is different from attaining nirvana. Heavenly beings are part of samsara. They are part of that cycle. They have not got out of it. They may have some special powers. They are heavenly beings. They have special powers than humans. But they are not out of the cycle of life and death. Now, this small thing that you see on top, you see that? This small place that you see on top, this is called as the Siddhishila. This is the Siddhishila, or the abode of the liberated souls. This is where souls go and reside after attaining nirvana. You were asking that question, where do they go, right? This is where they reside. So Lord Mahavira's soul, Lord Adinath's soul, Parshvanath's soul, all of these, and not just there. There are so many other great humans who would have achieved nirvana. It's not about religion. Jainism is a way of life. Right? Many monks and many nuns would have achieved nirvana over so many years. This is where their souls reside, and they never come back to being any of this at all. So this is the outer body, is the universe. This symbol that you see here, there's something written, it's not so clear. This is written in some Hindi and Sanskrit, ahimsa. Ahimsa means non-violence. This is one of our core principles, non-violence. And as I said, non-violence also by words, thoughts, deeds, all three. Not just by action alone. Not just by action alone. Violence is not just by action alone. The core principle of Jainism resides in thought. Thought will come first, action will come later. But even that thought should not come. So this hand tells you to hold on for a second. Just hold. Wait, what? Hold what? Before doing any activity, any action, just pause for a second. Think through with calm mind. Is your action going to cause any distress to any other living being? If it does, you rather not go on that path. So just think. This is telling us to pause. Say, please Shubham, please stop. Just think through before you are doing this action. Are you doing the right thing or not? If, and this circle that you see here, it tells us, is it symbolic or the fact that if you still make that mistake, if you still create a bad thought about somebody because he beat you or he did something to you, if you continue to do that, you will still be stuck in this circle of life and death. In this sansara of circle, in this circular loop, you will still be stuck forever if you continue to make that mistake. Now this is swastika. This is nothing to do with the part of universe. Universe is the outer body, as I explained. But this is swastika, very very holy symbol for Jains. And so what are the four? Can you see the 4 dots here in between? Right? Now they are symbolic of 4 life forms, as we were discussing. Human life form is one of the life forms. Then you have the Triyans. Triyans we call in Jainism, all plants and animals are in Triyans life form. So animals and plants both, they are in Triyans life form. One is hell, which is the hellish beings, and there are many levels of hell, by the way. 7 levels of hell, 16 levels of heaven. Then even above heaven, there are a lot more details. Anuttar, Viman, and grave. We don't want to go there, but let's call them as heavenly beings, which are living above. Hellish beings, plants and animals and humans. These are 4 life forms. They are interchangeable. What do you mean by interchangeable? A human in the next birth, depending on the karma, can take birth in the hell. Depending on the merit of your karmas, you can become an animal. You can become a plant. You can also become a heavenly being. But what is most important is there is one life form which is pointing towards upwards. Which is that life form? The human life form. This is the only life form which can also become liberated. Which is why in Jainism we consider human life as the most precious life. Even more precious than the heavenly beings, because they don't have the power to get liberated. They can't become liberated souls. They can't get out of the cycle of life and death. Only humans have the power to do it. So this arrow is a little bit open here, pointing that you can actually go and your soul can actually reside there. The 3 dots that you see here, they are the 3, not 3 paths to liberation, they are the 3 jewels of Jainism. There are the 3 jewels of Jainism. What are these 3 jewels? Right knowledge, right faith, right conduct. Samyak Gyan, Samyak Darshan, Samyak Charita is what we call them in our language. All 3 combined, put together, having the right knowledge. What is the right knowledge, you think? What right knowledge should we have? Knowledge is different and right knowledge is different, very different. There's a beautiful story, but I won't go there on that. But what do you think is right knowledge? Any guesses?
Way of living.
What do you think is right knowledge? What is that one thing that you should know which will tell us that yes, this person has possibly achieved right knowledge? I mean, there are so many details, but the real knowledge is knowing that your true self is not this body. Not just knowing, but believing that your soul is actually different. Whatever you're doing, this body is doing is different. This body is just matter. You read chemistry, right? I'm an engineer from my. This is all matter. it will decompose, it will transform into something else. This plastic bottle came out of petroleum products, which came out of plants. All transform into each other, but our soul doesn't. So right knowledge is having the knowledge that our soul is different from our body. Samyak Gyan, that is called a Samyak Gyan. Then what is Samyak Darshan, right faith? Having true faith in whatever the Jinas have told us, whatever is written now. There are certain things that we often are very surprised at, can that be possible? Because as humans we cannot fathom everything. Our knowledge is limited, our scope is limited. We cannot fathom everything. But to have infinite faith in whatever is written is very essential and important to achieve Nirvana. And the third thing is right conduct. Like you have the knowledge, you have the faith, but if you don't follow that path, then what? You have got the knowledge today. You also have faith in it. But tomorrow when the situation arises, you will still get very angry at somebody. If you are not following it, that's not right conduct. But only when we do all these three together, we are walking on the path of Nirvana. This is the path of Nirvana. All three combined, you walking on the path, shredding karmas one by one, clearing that dusted mirror that we saw. And once you progress ahead, there will come a time that you will experience the bliss. Once that bliss is experienced, you will attain that enlightenment. But those are the three jewels and the path to liberation. Now these are different. So the question you asked, 6 million. Somebody asked that question. I was saying that we have 6 million Jains globally. So this is what the global population is, mostly in India, as I said. I think somebody asked outside of India, it's in US, UK. I don't have the exact numbers, but largely outside of India is US, UK, some in Africa, and Singapore has only now this number is, let's say, around 2000, 1800, 2000. But Jainism has different sects. The core belief is the same. Right? The core belief is the same. There are some small differences. For example, just to give you a small example, the two main sects are Shwetambar and Digambar. In Digambar sect, the monks, they believe that they don't even wear any clothes. In Shwetambar, they wear only white clothes. In Digambar, the monks wear no clothes at all. They believe that once we have left off all desires, what does it mean to have clothes? We should not be impacted by anything in the world. Isn't it true? That is true. That is their point of view. Shwetambar believe that to respect others and to create harmony, looking at the society, you can still wear, you are still walking the same path. Both. So all of these, and there are different sects and subset segments that have come through over a period of time. This is from the 6th century BC where it was united, and then in the 3rd century before Christ, there are two segments that emerged. That is, we are talking about 2500 years ago. There were the two main sects. And then as time passed, there have been a few more sects that have come up. But essentially the two large main ones that we need to know is Shwetambar and Digambar.
Hold on.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just go back.
I suppose the Singapore Jain is in the yellow path.
That's an interesting question.
You know, every religion that you see here, right? Even other non-Jain religions, right? There are always, like what Mr. Shubham said, the practices may differ, while the common goal is still the same. But the way you practice may differ, and hence, that differentiates you from one to the other.
Yeah.
Now, in Singapore context, we also have various different, paths going towards that common goal. And there are people coming from all across India, right?
Okay.
They come from multiple different places, different states, which they've been following, in their own ways, the tradition. So to continue the tradition here as well, they would do the same. They would follow their ritualistic paths or some other forms.
So because I got the point of not wearing clothes,
Yeah.
below one.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know.
So just to clarify
Monks.
on that, that is only for the monks.
But it's still funny to see monk without clothes.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a belief, right?
That's a belief.
Yeah.
But only for the monks. The normal people who follow that sect, they will go there. But the monks have given up everything. No attachment to anything.
No, that's why I said in
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yeah,
law
we don't have
apply.
monks by the way in Singapore. Right?
Yeah. Okay.
And this is all faiths put together. It's not just a social economy. It's a very diverse because people have come, as you said, from all parts of the country.
And plus, if you see the strictest of the forms that they believe in, which is to give up even a single clock on your body, is such a strong, determined effort of following that path. Right? And there are people who take up that vow to give up everything, not even a single piece of cloth on your body. It is amazing how their thought process of mind would have been formed.
This still exists?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
very, very popular in
Oh
India.
yes,
Very popular.
yes.
Because the Hindu aesthetics.
Aesthetics. Okay. Sure.
So now the 3 A's of Jainism. The first A I think now we are very, very familiar with, which is ahimsa. Ahimsa is non-violence. Non-violence by action and thoughts as well. We don't want to hurt anybody and not even want to think bad of them. Even if they were to do something to us, you will still create a very positive thought for them. That is what really true ahimsa is. So that is one of the most important A's of Jainism. I think I already touched on it very early. This is a very important concept in Jainism called as anekantva, or multiplicity of views. Which means your view can also be true and my view can also be true. This actually photo is a very good depiction. So this is a story that there were 6 blind men that were taken, and they were taken close to this elephant, and they were told to, okay, just tell us what do you think this particular being is, right? So this guy said, oh, this looks like a rope. This guy said, oh, this looks like a rope. Now this guy said, no, this looks like a pretty big flapping ear or something. And this guy said something about the teeth and look, this is looking like I'm pulling up a push-up bar or something. Everybody had their own view. They said it's like a pillar, the leg guy or something. So everybody had their own views. In reality, none of them were correct and none of them were wrong. Was anybody correct or was anybody wrong? No. Right? Which means everybody is right from their perspective, from their viewpoint. Your viewpoint can be different from my viewpoint. We also have to appreciate everybody else's viewpoint. You can also be right, I can also be right. Doesn't mean, so even truth, for example, Jainism says the absolute truth. Nobody really knows the absolute truth. It's only the Tirthankar who knows the absolute truth. He is the only one who has got the Keval Gyan, the supreme knowledge to know of everything. So, in common terms, if we apply this principle, we say, unless I walk into your shoes or see it from your perspective, I may actually not find the merit in your argument. Sometimes your argument can be completely opposite to mine, but you may still be completely correct and I may also completely be correct. Right? It happens in our day-to-day life many times. We can apply in all our relationships as well, this concept. Even at our homes, at our offices, everywhere we can apply this concept. The moment we start looking from somebody else's perspective and think that this perspective can also be truth. My perspective is correct from my opinion. From his lens, that can also be true. It is such a powerful concept. It promotes harmony as well. So this is another A, multiplicity of views, anekantva. The third A is aparigraha. Aparigraha. Aparigraha is non-possessiveness. Non-possessiveness means the detachment from everything, worldly things and also inner things. There are a lot of detachment from. There are 2 parts to aparigraha, by the way, inner and external. Aparigraha, inner means you leave all your pride, ego, just leave that outside. And non-possessiveness from an external viewpoint, common humans and mere mortals like me would say, non-possessiveness, why do you want to own this view home? 1 room is enough for us. Why do you want to own 2 big luxury cars? So detach from worldly possessions. Detach yourself. that is a very, very important concept, because see, ultimately attachment is one thing which promotes greed, pride, anger, fear, ego, all these things, isn't it? If you have attachment only, then you will get all these vices. How otherwise you will get anger? If I am not attached to something in the plate breaks, if I am not attached, will I be anger? A beautiful Swarovski plate you bought, next day it got broken. If you are not attached, you will not get anger. Right? So attachment brings you, is the root to greed, fear, pride, ego, anger, all these things. So if you do non-possessiveness, detachment from the worldly pleasure, be content in what you have and not aspire even from your thoughts. Again, Jainism is a very, the principles, at least what we weigh is more a very thought related religion. So even from your thoughts, you should not create the thoughts of possessiveness. Forget about owning properties. If I start creating thoughts of owning 10 acres there, that is all attachment. That will all incite more and more karmic atoms to me. So these are the 3 beautiful A's of Jainism. Just remember this. Now 5 Jain vows or code of conduct. First one is ahimsa, that we already know what it is, right? These are vows, or the Panch Mahabharat is what we call it. Five vows which every Jain should follow, should take, right? The second one is Satya. Satya is truthfulness, never lie. Be honest and truthful always, never lie. So non-violence, truthfulness, 2 of the vows are these. Third vow is Asatya. Aste means non-stealing. No robbery, no cheating, no theft, no bribery, none of these things. Aste, non-stealing. The 4th vow, we just discussed this, aparigraha or non-possessiveness. The 5th vow is brahmacharya or celibacy. So, this is one of the vows that, be loyal to your partner and, have a constrained life form as well.
One question, please. You mentioned ahimsa, satya, aste. So are these Sanskrit?
So Satya is Hindi, Ahimsa is Hindi and Sanskrit both. So these are partly Hindi and partly Sanskrit.
You have the 5 Jain vows, and we just saw 3 A's of Jain.
Yeah.
What does the 3 A's serve, or can I say that these 5 refer to the code of conduct.
Yeah.
Then the 3 A's is what?
The previous principles.
Yeah, so 3 A's are the principles that we govern our life with. Right? The
Principle.
ahimsa,
Okay, 3 A.
and the code of conduct is how you go and carry out your activities on a day-to-day basis.
Because you have both sides, non-violence and
Sure.
non-possessiveness. So you have to sort of overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are overlapping. See, these are principles and code of conduct that you have to do in your life, and those are principles.
Okay.
It's not they are completely opposite or
Okay,
detached from each other.
understand.
They're overlapping.
So I'll interpret the 3 A's as the nouns and the 5 vowels as the verbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very well said.
Very well said.
Alignment is given, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now this is just a sample of some of the very old preserved agams. These were written, way before Christ, 500, 300, 400. Some of the early agams were written 300, 400 years before Christ as well. So they were written in Prakrit language. This is not Hindi or Sanskrit. Over the years, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th century AD, some of them were translated into whatever was the common language at that time, Awadhi or Sanskrit or whatever was Magadhi, those languages over the years. But some of the early parts we find some evidence even before Christ, and then most of them were written in the 300 to 600 AD. Some of the other, so we have a lot of Jain, these we call them as agams. The sacred books are called as agams for us. Like your Bible, for example, in Christianity, right? Same, we call them as agams. And there are other very, very, very strong books that some of our acharyas or saints and monks have written after Lord Mahavira. See, Lord Mahavira's sermons and whatever message was passed orally for many years. At that time, people had very, very strong memory as well to remember what was said. They could recollect it. Yeah, sorry.
So you mentioned the cycles that start 1 to 6, this
Yeah.
one, 6 to 1,
Yes,
and we are in the 4th.
we are in the fifth. We are in the fifth now.
We are 5th now, yeah. So it looks like this, written around 6 BC, we are in the 5th. This is the 5th,
Beautiful.
right?
Yeah.
This is all written in the fifth.
Yeah, all in the 5th. Yeah.
After Lord Mahavira, 3 years after Lord Mahavira, the fifth Ara started.
Yeah.
After 3 years only, 3 years and 8 months to be precise.
So you lose out a lot on the 4th, whether your 24 lords stay, and I think that's the richest period
Yeah.
of truths of sacred writing. No lost.
Fourth, there was nothing written in fourth. The
Huh?
memory in the
Is it
fourth
memory?
Ara, there was nothing written. Even in the beginning of fifth Ara, there was nothing written. The
Okay.
memory was so strong that people could recite the entire books orally. They could recollect for ages altogether. It was in the 3rd, 4th, 5th century AD after Christ that the monks of that time realized that now the memory power is decreasing. And they could foresee that humans of future will not be able to remember all these things by heart, so we'll have to pen it down. And that is how the process of writing those preachings started. So some of the early ones you find before Christ, largely the work was done from 300 to 600 AD, which is after Christ.
So
Before
this is written in
Prakrit language.
Prakrit.
Prakrit. There was the language before Sanskrit. At that time, that was the most common language. Prakrit was the language in which most Jain texts are written. I mean, now you have Hindi translations available. Now you also have English translations available.
How is
For
it
some of
related to Pali? Is it related? No.
No, Pali is it is a different language. Prakrit is a different, very very ancient language. It's probably one of the oldest languages that we see in terms of scriptures that come out.
I think Pali is more associated with origins in Ceylon, if I remember correctly.
From Sri Lanka. right?
Yes.
Oh.
So I think it's referring to the chantings made by the Theravada monks,
Okay.
which is in Pali.
This is Jainism practice, forms of worship. We just visit the temple, we do aarti, we do kesar puja, we do with saffron. This is what the ladies are doing, like samayik. What is basically samayik is for 48 minutes. We take a vow, we just detach from everything, think of God, denounce our karmas, and there's a process, entire process to do samayik. So this is another form of worship. You can do the chanting and all with the beads as well. Then this is pratikaman. This is like you sit down, take a vow, you denounce all the past karmas that you have accumulated, and you do it on a daily basis as well. So there are different types of forms of worship that Jains do in general. Some are going down to the god, some are doing bhakti, some are praying to the idol of the god, some are looking inwards towards the soul, trying to get rid of the karma by doing various sorry.
You use the word idol, so I follow you. Now, if you remove the word Jainism and you take a picture of this Mahavira, your Lord, under the tree, I will make the first guess as like Buddha, or I'll probably get it wrong. So my question is, if you put two idols there, and one is Buddha and one is Lord Mahavira, what's the difference? For me, I can't see the difference.
Very good question. Although I can't see the full picture here, but I think we were
I
discussing.
know below there's a lion.
Yeah.
There is a lion. Now, the lion is symbol of Lord Mahavira. If you ask me, there are two idols in a temple, and they hide the symbol for both of them. I will also not be able to tell which one is what. It is the symbol that tells us that this is the idol of this Lord. The idols look the same. The symbol is the differentiating factor. We call it as Labchan. Anyways, the symbol is the differentiating factor. Every Tirthankar has a different symbol. So Lord Mahavira's symbol is lion.
Oh,
Lord Adinath, who is the first Tirthankar, his symbol is the ox.
oh.
Lord Parshvanath, the 23rd Tirthankar, his symbol is the snake.
This is very close to the Hindu deity. They have their the
Yeah.
vehicle,
Yeah.
Vana, they call it Vahana.
Like
Vahan.
like Ganesha's mouse.
Ganesh is so in Hinduism, Ganesh's Vahan is mouse.
Yes.
Right? So that is the Vahan is the carrier vehicle.
Okay.
That's a carrier vehicle. As in like in the Hindu stories, there will be say Ganesh is probably traveling on a mouse. Like Indra is traveling on an elephant.
Yes.
Right?
So it's the same concept here?
Not necessarily same. These are just symbolic. It doesn't mean Mahavira will travel on lion. There is nothing to do
It's
with
just
that.
symbolic.
It is just symbolic.
Okay.
There is some correlation with that Tirthankar's life and that symbol in the life form. For example, Lord Parashnath, there was a story where how he saved a few snakes who were burning inside a wood, and nobody else could see it, but he could see. So there is some correlation why we choose that symbol for the Lord, but it's not like that carrier or any other.
And it's more for people like us to recognize and form an identity, because we wouldn't have a proper recognition of an individual of those times.
Yes.
But it's more for us to have our beliefs
Symbol.
and thoughts and feelings towards the Lord when we see that.
Because the 24 Lord, you put there, all of them are
Yeah.
quite similar.
Yes.
It's the symbol below
The
that
symbol below is
differentiate
different.
them.
I don't know how closely you saw the upstairs. The main idol was Lord Mahavira's. Towards his left, there was a portrait. That portrait, the symbol was fox.
Understand.
Yeah.
Thank you,
That
understand.
was Lord Adinath's portrait. On the right, there was a different name.
Yeah, understand.
So this is the Jain monks and nuns, how they live. This is all they have, nothing else. This is all they have. So this is because you already saw some of those in the shelves upstairs. This is Rajoharan. Why do they carry this small white broom? Can you see the white broom? It's basically when they are walking or they are sitting somewhere, they would want to clean that there are no ants or animals when they are sitting, so that they are not doing any himsa or violence. These are the Digambar sect monks. No clothes at all. Only one broom they carry to clean, making sure they are not killing any insects or anything. These are the nuns. They are all from the Shwetambar sect and they are from the Digambara sect. All they have is Rajoharan. This broom is called as Rajoharan. All they have is broom, 2-3 utensils, and that's all.
Speaking back to that,
Sure.
they're covering the amount of the house.
Yeah, that's such a good question. This is called as Mupatti. Now, Mupatti is basically when we speak in Jainism, even when I'm speaking with some monks or nun or anybody, you would first cover, not necessarily nose, but up till here. You see, nose not covered. But why we cover this? We believe that even while talking, and especially when you are praying to God, you don't want to commit any hinsa or violence. There are infinite microorganisms living in the air. To the extent that there are infinite microorganisms living in the air, you don't want to kill them, and at least not while doing prayer to the God or talking to somebody. So they will always put that. And we are normal Shravaks. We are normal part of the 4 household Shravaks, but they are monks and nuns. So they even while walking, for example, they are wearing it. While giving sermons, they would wear it. Right? So this is what Mupatti. This is called Mupatti.
And it's just respecting and protecting life forms as well, and the microorganisms. Like COVID has now showed us, there are these living organisms that can transfer from one to the other. But even before that, Jainism is,
So very quickly, these we all touched base earlier as well. Now this is the Summit Shikhar mountain that I was talking. This is a 27-kilometer hike on the mountain where you go. 20 Tirthankars got attained nirvana from this mountain. So very, very holy to us. Similarly, Girnar, where Lord Neminath was the 22nd Tirthankar attained moksha from here. So you have to climb like 5,000 steps for this one. You have to climb 3,000 steps to reach there, but very, very beautiful. When you go there, the experience is so holy, so blissful, and I just can't describe in words. And this is the place where Lord Mahavira attained nirvana, inside this one. I visited there once. So this is the place. This is in Pavapuri, Bihar. Now the Jain diet, you can clearly make out by now that very, very strict vegetarians. You don't want to kill any organisms at all. So forget about meat or egg or any form of meat, fish, anything. You're killing a life form to feed your stomach. That's completely prohibited in Jainism because that's kind of violence that we are creating. We're also accumulating bad karmas because of that. That is strictly prohibited. Alcohol, drugs, cigarettes are forbidden. To the extent that even the consumption of roots of plants, which is onion, potato, garlic, carrot, that is also forbidden in Jainism.
Anything underground.
Yeah.
And yes, correct. Because that also leads to killing of infinite microorganisms around it. The people who are very strict Jains, they will, if they want to eat a fruit, they will want to eat a fruit which has already fallen from the tree and not being plucked from the tree. To that extent, very very strict. I'm just saying, I'm strict, but if you truly follow that approach, so
Okay.
I was a bit confused because outside the mirror you had a man carrying meat.
meat, no, no,
What's that?
meat is completely
Oh,
forbidden.
there is a picture there on the mirror, right? There is a story behind it.
Oh.
And that story is depicting a different. It's the Shantinath Bhagwan story of having a pigeon to save pigeon's life. You're cutting off your own
Cutting
body
off
part.
your own mask.
Yeah.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, so there is the story behind it. So to test Shantinath Bhagwan, who is one of us, he is actually a 16th Tirthankar. So to test Shantinath Bhagwan, one of the heavenly gods, the Indra, he came to test him whether he is really achieved the kind of spiritual progress that everybody in the universe is talking about, right? So he came to him and he said that I want to take this pigeon. But the Shantinath Bhagwan said, look, now this pigeon is in he came in my sharan, he came to me. I cannot give him because you will kill him. I cannot offer him to him. So the heavenly body, to test Shantinath Bhagwan, he said, I will want something in return. So he said, I will cut my flesh to the same way to match the pigeon's flesh. You take that. But I cannot allow this to be harmed. So he cut. And there's a story goes that he cut, the weight of the pigeon kept on increasing because the heavenly person kept on influencing the weight of others and he kept on doing it. And after some time he gave up, he said so sorry for that. So that's what that might be.
Yeah.
No wonder in that wall mirror, the closure is actually bleeding.
Yeah, so I didn't know which exactly you were referring to, sorry, but yeah, but eating meat is completely forbidden. To the extent that even the root vegetables, as you said, so meat, egg, any form of meat, right? Fishes, anything.
But Jain food has now become very prominent across. If you ask for Jain food in different restaurants, they know really what this food is. Even Singapore Airlines is catered for Jain food. So you can ask for Jain meal on Singapore Airlines, and they'll cater for you.
No milk.
Milk? Milk is okay.
Milk is okay.
Milk is okay.
Yeah, for vegans, for those who are even more strict, the dairy products are forbidden as well. So they will not consume dairy. Okay, so we touched upon a little bit, but we'll just cover Jainism in Singapore context, right? And we've seen the principles of Jainism. One thing that you need to remember, a key takeaway when you leave this place,